We live in the age of the individual. Never before has the word freedom meant so much and cost so much at the same time. We have the right to be ourselves, to live how we want, love who we want, work where we want, and believe what we want. No gods, no kings, no inherited roles, no suffocating traditions. Just you, the liberated self, alone, autonomous, unbound. But beneath this beautiful illusion of modern life, a quiet question lingers. If we are all so free, why are we so alone? This is the paradox of individualism. What began as a revolution of rights has become a crisis of meaning. We broke the chains, we escaped the village. We left the tribe, the church, the marriage, the family, and now we drift. Freedom, we're told, is the highest good. But freedom from what, exactly? And freedom for what? Modern individualism promises empowerment, but it also isolates. It disconnects. It turns human beings into self-contained units, like apps on a phone, always updated, always performing, but never truly known. We were not made for this. Thinkers like Emil Durkheim saw it coming over a century ago. He coined the term anomie, a kind of spiritual disorientation that occurs when traditional norms collapse and nothing replaces them. People become free, but also lost, independent, but anxious. The ties that once gave life structure and rhythm disappear, and all that's left is the burden of choice. Because in modern life, every path is possible, and none are guaranteed. You can become anything, but that means you have to become something. And if you fail, there's no one to blame but yourself. This is the quiet suffering of the modern soul, freedom without belonging. Relationships today are voluntary, fragile, often transactional. Marriage is delayed or abandoned. Community is rare. Religion is mocked or ignored. Friendships fade with geography or time. Technology connects us, and yet we've never felt more unseen. We are surrounded by people, and yet starved of intimacy. We can speak to thousands, and yet struggle to say how we feel. We scroll for hours, and yet don't remember who we are. Freedom gives us options, but too many options paralyze. And in our quest to be completely independent, we've built lives no one else can enter. Fortresses of self-expression, echo chambers of personal truth, where everyone is performing and no one is present. Here's the bitter irony. The more individualistic we become, the more we crave what individualism cannot give. Connection, community, continuity. A place to belong, not just a place to exist. We want to be seen, not as avatars or brands, but as human beings, fragile, flawed, dependent. But in a culture that worships strength and self-sufficiency, admitting that need feels like weakness. And so we lie. We say we're fine. We say we love the freedom. We post our smiles. We sell our lifestyle. And then we go to bed with a phone in our hand and a hollow ache in our chest, wondering why everything still feels so far away. Philosophers like Kierkegaard understood this loneliness. He spoke of the sickness unto death, the despair of a self that cannot connect, that spirals inward, unable to anchor itself in something larger. And that is what many people today experience. Not the old oppression of being told who to be, but the new despair of not knowing who to be at all. And yet, it's hard to criticize individualism, because it gave us rights. It ended tyranny. It freed the outcast. It gave voice to the marginalized. And for that, we should be grateful. The problem is not freedom itself. It's the kind of freedom we've chosen. We've confused freedom with isolation. We've mistaken autonomy for meaning. And now we wander through life collecting experiences like trophies, without ever asking what it's all for. Real freedom isn't the absence of responsibility. It's the ability to choose commitments worth dying for. It's not about avoiding connection. It's about choosing it, again and again, even when it hurts, even when it limits us, even when it demands everything. Because the truth is, There is no self without the other. You only become you in relation to something larger, a person, a family, a people, a purpose. Without that, you're not free. You're just floating. So what can we do? We can start by asking the ancient questions. What am I part of? Who do I belong to? What am I responsible for beyond myself? And more importantly, am I willing to trade some of my autonomy for something more lasting, for something sacred, for someone who needs me? That's the real courage today. Not self-promotion, not constant reinvention, but the courage to stay, to build, to connect, to let others in, to risk being known. Because what if the greatest threat to our generation is not oppression, but alienation? What if the true revolution isn't to be more unique, but to be more human, to admit that we are not gods, that we are not algorithms, that we are not endless fragments of performance and identity. We are beings made to be with others, not in a swarm, not in a crowd, but in real, messy, vulnerable community, in homes, in friendships, in shared rituals, in silence, in grief, in meals, in trust. Modern individualism gave us freedom, but it also gave us the loneliness epidemic, the anxiety epidemic, the meaning crisis, because it told us that you are enough. But the human heart doesn't want to be enough. It wants to be held, seen, needed. So maybe it is time to stop chasing more freedom and start asking what our freedom is for. Maybe we don't need more options, but more courage to choose what matters. Maybe the next step in our evolution is not more technology, more rights, more separation, but more commitment to each other, to truth, to love. Because in the end, freedom without connection is just exile, and no one survives exile for long.